Hey, it's been a difficult week because we all got sick. I think you might be able to hear a little croak in my voice, but it's not so bad today. It's hard time. But, we're recovering. It's fascinating actually seeing a baby like over a few days. At first, panicking that he doesn't know how to breathe when his nose is blocked. It's like really it being a really overwhelming event to just a couple of days later feeling his nose blocked again. Developing strategies to approach the situation himself. The initial response is, I don't know how to do anything, and I don't know how bad this is. I will call for help. And then with encouragement and assurance that it's a non-life-threatening situation, and giving a sense of safety, then starting to develop independence. It's really everything. Everything's like that. Yeah. Babies are really so capable, so communicative. Before I had children, I guess I'd received the idea that they basically don't do anything for several months. That's nonsense. Many mammals are born already capable of walking, and the development of humans is different, but a newborn is really like they're a 9-month-old. They're not just started being, and in a lot of ways it shows. There's so many planes, but they disrupt my train of speech, so I feel it's in the interest of just being really relaxed and unhurried about this. I'll just wait for the noise to pass and continue. I wonder sometimes how it's possible that there's this cultural mistake that this misunderstanding of the capacities of a baby. Obviously surely most parents communicate with their babies and see what they're doing and see their development day to day, and it's just that if you're not a parent or a primary caregiver in direct contact with the baby, the small day-to-day changes are invisible to you. But yeah, so often if I talk to other parents about what their babies are doing, they're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And to non-parents, they often say, what? Babies don't do anything. What are you talking about? And yeah, it's strange. But one thing I wanted to talk about today is something that we found really important and a lot of parents don't know about, which is how much it's possible to communicate with a baby about their poos and wees. Before our first child was born, a friend gave us a book called Nappy Free Baby, which I would recommend. It's like really good. The title maybe states the case a bit strongly. It's possible to not use nappies at all, but the text of the book itself is very neutral on this, and suggests a lot of strategies for part-time using nappies when a baby is in the care of a daycare or grandparents or someone who's not confident to, or having the attention to communicate about it, or at night or at day, whichever one is posing a difficulty, or would pose a difficulty if there wasn't something to do about it. Oh yeah, the book goes into the various stages of development a new baby has with approximately when they start to gain control of each reflex and what they're feeling inside, and the different ways they approach communicating about it, and the different strategies that parents can use to support them through this. So I'd read some of the book, and the first day our first child was home from the hospital, I saw her making a poo face, and I thought, okay, give it a try. Held her over a bucket, out came a poo. Like, really simple. And so since then, most of our children's poos and wees have gone into a potty or a basin or somewhere. Far from all, like plenty go in nappies or on us or on the floor. Sometimes places you don't want them to go, but it's really important for this to be something that you're really calm about. If you start like having a response, that's disgusting, that's building for the child a negative relationship with their own body, which is sadly what a lot of us grew up with in some respects. And it's just a natural function. It's just a fluid that comes out and gets on your skin. Skin's really easy to clean. Like, you don't want it to get on a computer or a book or something, but you know, there's a reason leather is made out of skin. It's just like such a it's a substance with many desirable properties. Yeah, and I see a lot of parents using often disposable nappies, which is just a lot of plastic. If you're using a few of those a day and they go in landfills, that's just not the kind of thing we should be doing. We know better now. And yeah, I think a lot of people are discouraged from using cloth nappies by the idea that it's too much cleaning, and it can be a lot of cleaning, especially with a newborn, but before long it's not so much, because before long mostly things aren't going into the nappies. And it's really... We were looking after a friend's child for a little while, and he had nappies, and at one point I had to change the nappies, and it's just... Like a minute ago I talked about not being disgusted by it, but I'd not had the experience of cleaning up poo from a several month old child before, because our child the same age was never pooing in nappies by that point. That was yeah, probably more than a year old. Goodness. And it just seemed really unhygienic to have it smeared all around the genitals, and obviously you can clean it up. It's simple enough to do, but it takes time. And yeah, other times I'm just out in a shop or something, and I see someone who has a baby, and their baby is doing a cry that I would interpret as a communication that they wanted to do a wee or a poo, and they're just going, there, shush, you don't have to cry. And because they don't understand it as communication, they interpret it as the baby being emotionally distressed or something like that, and they're giving the best care they can under that understanding. But if it's like then it's probably a wee, and if it's got this kind of deep, then it's probably a poo. Cause, we know how it feels to do these biological functions, and how it feels in our bodies, the need for them. And when a child's making an action or a sound to express it, you can perceive that what they're feeling is something that you recognise. It's like basic empathy. And I think the reason a lot of people aren't doing this is that they simply don't have the concept in their minds that this could be a thing that the child is going to be communicating about. It's not that they lack empathy, it's that they lack knowledge. So I feel it's just a really important piece of knowledge to spread, that children, right from the start, they feel the need to go, and they don't know what to do about it, and they're communicating, expressing. Like at first it doesn't have as much the sense of an interpersonal communication, but very quickly they start recognizing that the parents are people and connect on that level. But at first it can just be they're feeling it, and they're making a sound and an action that not to communicate with anyone else, but just to try and understand the feeling that they're having. So really, with a newborn, I find that like maybe even half the time they're crying, it's about a wee or a poo, and therefore if you respond to that by holding them over a basin or potty, giving them the encouragement and opportunity to do that, it's you have less time of them crying, and yeah, I think a lot of babies learn through exactly the same process, learn that it's okay to go in their nappies, because that's not an inborn instinct. We don't naturally feel like, oh, I've got something covering me. That's a intuitive place to put it, but it comes from that they're wearing it, and they're crying, they're expressing, trying to communicate about what they're feeling, and the parent is saying it's okay, and soothing them and assuring them, giving them comfort, helping them relax into the situation, and they feel okay, it's okay to do this, and they let it go. So after some months, of course, they are very happy to go in a nappy, because they've been taught that that's an appropriate, comforting, reassuring place to do it. But that's a learned thing. Now, a lot of I do talk to some parents about this, and they say something like, oh, I tried EC and it didn't work. Now, EC stands for elimination communication, and it's a particular systemization of how to communicate with a baby about poos and wees, and how to train them in it. And literally everyone I've talked to who calls it EC, which is actually numerous people, has had a stressful experience of it. So I haven't really looked into the EC literature, but I would advise against it, because it seems to make people stressed, and this is not something to stress about, and it's not something that can not work. It's just like you're listening and building communication, and there's progress, and sometimes it goes backwards, and so it's not. So what I'm talking about isn't so much any specific method, it's just like I said, just having the knowledge that that's something that babies communicate about, and when I can, responding to that. But that's very simple, but there's a lot in that, and it really works. Like, for example, last week before, we took a new baby out to register the birth, and so we were in the the big bureaucracy place where there's lots of different counters and people. It's a chaotic place. And he started crying that in a way that I recognised was I need to do a poo. So I carried him off looking for the bathroom, and it was like really 5 minutes walk down the hall to get there, and got his nappy off, held him over the urinal, and out comes a big poo, and rinsed him under the tap, put the nappy back on, and there's compared to then having a dirty nappy to seal up in a bag and carry home and wash later, and it's smelly because it's been out in the heat for a few hours. It's just so much simpler, cleaner. Yeah, sometimes when I've mentioned to people the idea of not so much using nappies, they respond that, oh, that sounds messy and complicated, but how it's been for us has been a lot cleaner, and a lot simpler. That's not even the point. Like, the real reason I advocate for this is that, like I said, the babies are communicating about this, and I see other people's babies doing the communication and it not being received. A lot of mums do seem to know when their baby is going to do a poo. They are listening to the communication, but then the response is to let them poo in the nappy and then change it and wash immediately afterwards, which is certainly better than leaving it for a while, but it's much cleaner if you respond first. Have them go in a basin or a bucket, potty, and then there's very little cleanup. So yeah, that was going out with a 2-week-old baby, and I know that sounds a 2 weeks since birth baby. I know that sounds amazing, that according to our received notions of how much communication a baby does and how much control that they have, that he was able to need to do the poo but hold on for 5 minutes while I was finding the bathroom. But when you think of this as being a mammal that's been in development for 10 months, it's not as surprising, really. Babies are very capable. Yeah, very capable. Let's see. Come down. were travelling a few years ago when our first child was 5 months old, and we were in the security queue at the airport, and she started crying. She needed to do a wee, and so we got out the potty from the bag. We had a travel potty that with a lid to seal it up after it's been done, because in the security queue there wasn't a way to go to the bathroom, so we just got there in the queue, sat her over the potty, and one of the guards came up to us saying, "You can't you can't do that here." Like what? Can't do what here? Like there's a baby in the queue, and like we'd see if she could hold on for 15 minutes until we were out, but no, it was more urgent than that. And so she's going to do a wee there in the queue, like that's going to happen. And yeah, the only question is if it's handled hygienically. And so obviously this guard's expectation was that she would have a nappy on and wee in the nappy, and then at some future point we would change the nappy after she's had half an hour of being irritated by that, which seems unreasonable to me, as opposed to like the very simple hygiene. It just goes in a container, put the lid on it, sealed up, like no smell, no fuss. But there's like I was saying, the cleanness of it is a bonus of this approach, but really the important thing to me about it is the communication. Because poos and wees and the feeling of digestion occupies a large percentage of a baby's awareness in the first few months. As they develop, they're becoming more internally aware. Of different parts of the process. And so their expressions and their responses change a bit as they're feeling it differently. And that's just really cool to be seeing and connecting over. And if that's not an aspect of their life that you're communicating with them about, you're not sharing with them what's going on with them, what they're feeling, what they're noticing, what's important to them. It's not to say that you're neglecting them if you're not doing that, but it's just a level of connection that's possible. And I found really rewarding just to be able to learn to communicate with this strange little animal that's a person, or becoming more of a person, but doesn't have our ways of communicating yet, but can communicate. And most of what they have to say is, I feel hungry or thirsty, or I'm confused, reassure me that everything's okay, I'm tired, or I need to poo or I need to wee. And so it's like maybe 6 things. And so a third of the things they have to say are about things that go in the potty. So it's half again as much communication if you're actually connecting over that, and much less confusion, because there's never crying for no reason. Sometimes the reason is not something you're able to figure out, sometimes the reason is not something you can do something about, but cut those cases in half, like basically it's just a lot more relaxed. And just really when they try to communicate and then they understand that you understood, it's light up. It's like, yes, I got the message through. And then the wee's done, and he does this little so let you know, I'm done now, pick me up. And yeah, it's just so nice. So yeah, for me it's been like, especially as a non-breastfeeding parent, with a partner who is breastfeeding, that it's really nice to have some of the basic needs be things that I can address. With our first child, we were using formula for a while before we got breastfeeding fully operational. It was a process. It was nice to be able to hold the bottle in her mouth and connect over that, hear her calling for food and have the response for that. But I didn't miss it at all once they were breastfeeding completely. It was so much simpler. It's just everything's so much easier without having to mix up the formula and keep track of how long it's been and get the temperature right, and it's just like you don't need to pack anything to go out. It's just the food comes with. But I would have missed it more if I didn't have other basic life functions that I was able to help with. our first child, the first representational drawing she did was she got a yellow crayon and she drew between her legs on the floor, look, the wee's coming out. It's really like such a huge part of what occupies children's awareness and attention. It's just not doing them justice if you have a negative relationship, like the disgust kind of thing. I hope that like nobody watching is immature enough to be like, oh, he said poo, he said penis, or whatever. Like, it's like if that's where you are, then like work on it, please. But it's really. This can be funny. I don't have a problem with poo jokes or whatever. Like it's just humour shouldn't be the only way of relating, because it's often masking discomfort. It's like how 90% of the time when you see a picture of a penis, it's like a graffiti scroll, like trying to be funny, shocking, attention grabbing or something, like, rather than just like this is a part of our anatomy. But obviously there's a lot of life drawing, like art that just represents the beauty of the human body without making it silly. So anyway, speaking of penises, like it's really different when you're holding a baby to aim their wee into a urinal or a basin or a potty when they have a penis, because there can be a lot of distance. So that's something I'm learning at the moment. Like if you're able to be very responsive to when the need arises, then it's usually like not coming out with too much pressure and it's not too hard, but you still have to it's still a little bit further back and angled differently than what I was used to. But if they've been crying for a while and the pressure's built up, then it can go far. So you really it's something to learn. But it's very manageable. You just have to learn to aim.